We've got some new summer beauty that just landed from Dior. The Dioriviera collection is here, and it is certainly a sight to see. I mean, take a look at the design of this makeup. But is any of this actually worth the price tag, especially compared to everything else that has launched this season? Or is it just the allure of a beautiful yet fleeting embossing? Let's find out. And let's kick things off with the two limited edition Dioriviera eyeshadow quints. We have Pink Riviera and Coral Riviera. As I mentioned, these are limited edition, so they are embossed with a beautiful Dior House Toile de Jouy print. I mean, take a look at that embossing, guys. It is very, very beautiful. All of the other specs of these are exactly the same as any other Dior eyeshadow quint, so they're talc-free. I don't detect any fragrance. They're made in France, same amount of quantity. They are a couple of dollars more. A standard quint is $68, and these are $71 because they are a part of this limited edition collection, and they have the fancy embossing. But let's take a deeper look, starting off with Pink Riviera. This is a mixture of soft neutrals, you have some soft pinks, and obviously a very bright pop of pink right there in the center. I really like the balance and the nuance of the shades in this one. We have various depths, but we also have various finishes in this palette. The first shade has a little bit of a golden shift. The second has a little bit of a pink shift. And then of course we have that bright pop of color. We then have a more intense pink shimmer. And then of course there is a deep matte if you want to build up a little depth or use it as a liner. I actually am wearing Pink Riviera on my eyes today, but I want to show you the first look that I created with this palette, where I really just went for it with the pink shades. And if you are new here, I do film in natural light with no filters. And usually when I do these looks, I like to go from something a little bit more subtle, and then I show you how you can build it up, because obviously we're not always going to use all 5 shades in the palette for every single look. First, I went into the lightest shade in the palette, and this is going to be a soft satin pink. But as I mentioned before, when you saw the swatches, this has a beautiful shift to it. I love the nuance of this shade. It's a little bit different, but as you can see, it still makes a really good everyday one and done if you just needed to do a very, very quick look. The next shade that I went into is the medium pink. Now, when I first saw the swatches of this one, I thought, ooh, that looks a little bit glittery, because it's kind of like a mauvey pink, but there are some silver flecks of glitter in there. It's a lot more pigmented than a lot of other Dior shadows that I've tried before. So I was a little bit afraid this might be too glittery, but it's not. It actually looks really, really beautiful on the eyes. I like how this has more pigmentation, a little bit more of like a metallic effect to it, while still not being too crazy, because we are talking about Dior eyeshadows here. Next up, I went into the soft coral brown. This also could be used all over the lid. Now, I applied this, with a little bit more of a lighter hand, but this also could be a really nice one and done. It's a very soft shade. It's in that sort of satin formula that we know Dior for. The next shade that I went into is that bright pop of pink. This is such a beautiful pop of color, but I would say don't be afraid of this, even though it is quite bright. I think if you use a fluffy brush, you can definitely sheer this out. You could just use a little touch, in the corner of the eye. You could use it as a liner. It's definitely very pink, and it has a lot of great pigmentation and blendability. Finally, I went into the deep warm brown, and I use this as a liner. I feel like this is the kind of shade that you can use to just kind of add a little bit more depth to the overall look, to add as a liner. It's not super dark, so it's not going to give you anything like ridiculously smoky, but I think for a summertime themed palette, it's kind of like that perfect warm brown to give a little bit more of like summery toned depth. So this is the final look, friends. Comment down below. Let me know what you think of this. And I also want to mention that I did use the center pink shade as a blush. I'll link some brushes down below that I recommend for this. It is so pigmented and blendable that you can totally use it as a blush. I really like the way it looks. I actually have it again on my cheeks today. So if you're looking at this and you're thinking like, oh, I wouldn't really use that shade as an eyeshadow very often, but you would use it as a nice sheer little pop of pink blush, then this palette might be worth it to you. I also want to point out that this palette is a mixture of pinks, but also warm neutrals. So this look that I'm wearing today was actually created with more of the neutral shades. I went in with this one all over the lid. I used this as an inner corner highlight, and then I built up a little more depth with the deepest shade. And you can see it's still really soft, but it's not as pink. So you definitely have a lot of options with this palette. I think it's very versatile. In case you couldn't tell, I really like this eyeshadow palette. In fact, it's probably a little bit too early to say this, but I think this might be one of my favorite Dior eyeshadow palettes that I've ever tried. And if you're new here, I'll be like the first person to tell you like, this sucks, don't spend your money on it. I have called Dior out so many times for their repetitive pink color stories and lack of quality with a lot of their reformulations. This is a good one. I think the formula is nice. It's very blendable. It's very easy to work with. It is a wearable palette. Like, you have some very neutral shades, but even the neutral shades have some really beautiful nuance to them. And then you have that really cute pop of color if you want to spice things up, if you want to use it as a blush. I think it's such a cute palette. The embossing is gone. Like, it's gone, guys. Don't buy this for the embossing because it is very, very fleeting. I like this for the color story, and I like it for the formula. Oh, and by the way, if you are enjoying this video, please don't forget to give me a big thumbs up. It really helps me out. And if you are new here, maybe consider subscribing to my channel. My name is Sophia, and I upload new videos just like this every single week, all about everyday beauty and accessible luxury style. We love Dior and luxury beauty here on this channel, so I review a lot of the new releases. So if that sounds good to you, hit that subscribe button to join our fam. We seriously would love to have you. And as a reminder, all these products, everything that I mentioned in this video, it's all gonna be linked down in that description box down below. But what about Coral Riviera? Because if you are new here, I love warm tones. This is right up my alley, so let me show you a little bit of Coral Riviera. This is gonna be a mixture of course, corals, but we also have some champagne, some gold, and brown in this palette as well. The top two shades have a beautiful pearlescent sheen. The bottom two shades have a much softer finish compared to Pink Riviera. And here's the look that I created with Coral Riviera. First up, I went in with the soft gold. I put this all over the lid. It's something that you can use as like an everyday one and done. It also does have a little bit of a beautiful shift to it, as I mentioned before. Then I went in with the light champagne shade. I applied this to the inner corner just to give a little bit of brightness to the eye. This has a little bit of a pinky shift. I like that a lot of these shades, they're easy colors to work with, but you have a really interesting pearlescent shift, which to me just screams summer. It's almost like, you know, the sun hitting your face, and it kind of gives that little bit of glow. The next shade that I went into is the orange shade. Once again, this one also has a little bit, a very slight, subtle gold shift. I used a fluffy brush with this one to create a little bit of like a watercolor effect to the eye. Then I dipped into the bright coral center shade, and I applied that to the outer corner for just a little pop of color. Once again, don't be afraid of these bright shades, because if you use a fluffy brush like I'm using, you know, with a lot of these shades, you're gonna get a much sheerer application, but you're still gonna get that pop of color. And then lastly, I went in with the deeper brown, and I applied this as a liner. I would say between both of these palettes, this is the only shade that I had a little bit of trouble with. This is the only one that's a little bit dusty, as I like to explain it. It's not super pigmented. You're not really gonna get the full shade that you see in the pan. I think a lot of you out there, you don't tend to create like super bold, smoky looks with these palettes every day, and these are more of like a summery theme. So if you fall into that camp, I don't think you're necessarily going to mind this shade. I just want you to know it is a little bit more sheer than some of the ones that you might have tried in previous palettes. Once again, I also used that center shade as a blush, and just like the pink palette, this applied beautifully. I think it looks really, really cute on the cheeks. And then here is the final look with Coral Riviera. Comment down below, let me know what you think. Did you like my look with Coral Riviera better, or do you prefer Pink Riviera for me? And which do you prefer? I would love to know. I actually really like the look that I got with Coral Riviera as well. I think this is a really great palette. Once again, as long as you're not expecting like super intense pigmentation from the deep brown shade, I think you're good. I think both of these are very beautiful, very solid summery color stories. If I had to choose between them, I think I actually would choose the Pink Riviera, because to me, this one's just a little bit more unique, but this one is also really good compared to a lot of the other Dior palettes that I have in my collection. It has a little bit of like that shiftiness to it, a little bit of nuance, but the color story to me is a little bit more dupeable than the pink one. Next up, we have the Dior Forever Nude Bronze Glow, and this is basically a bronzer. If you read the description on the Dior website, they sort of market this as like a 4-in-1, like it's a bronzer and a blush and a sculpting powder and a highlighter. It's basically a bronzer. You do get a little bit of either coral or pink, depending on which shade you choose. I chose the coral bronze, so you can see mine has like a little bit of a corally strip. This part in the center is a little bit more shimmery than the bronzer part that is on the perimeter, but when you blend it all together, you basically get a bronzer shade with a little bit of a coral or peachy tint. So just think of it as a bronzer. You really don't have the ability to like pick and choose different products. Anywhere you put your brush, you're kind of gonna get the same thing. The other thing that I want to mention is that just from my experience from the ones that they launched last year, it really doesn't matter if you choose the coral one or the pink one. This is such a small amount of product and the colors are so similar, they end up looking basically identical once you actually put them on your face. So if you're like really struggling to choose which one would work best for you, or maybe one of them is sold out, I would say don't fret about it. If you normally go for like pinky tones, choose the pink. If you're like me and you normally go for corally tones, then choose the coral. These, by the way, are talc free. They are done in the new formula that Dior just came out with. They just reformulated their bronzers. If you want more information about that, I'll link my review video down below. But newsflash, the formula is now different. They also are very fragranced. I always get a lot of questions about that. Oh, and also the packaging is super duper cute. This is once again that sort of like house print that they do on a lot of the Dior book totes and the clothing, etc. But enough of that. Let me show you the demo with this bronzer. As I mentioned, this is made with the new Dior bronzer formula, which I liked the old formula, but I actually like this formula even more. It does seem like it is more pigmented, more buildable, and also more blendable. You can see it does give me a little bit of like a blushy glow. I do think you could use this as like a nude blush because it does have a little bit more of like that corally character to it. Hopefully you can also tell that it's a little bit glowy as well. Not shimmery, but it's kind of like the luminous formula of the bronzers, if that's the one that you prefer versus the matte. Usually when it comes to these limited edition bronzers from Dior, they're always a little bit too deep and a little bit too warm for me. I don't know what it is about this one. I actually have it on my face today and I really built it up, and it's a bit cloudy today, so I'm a little bit washed out, but I feel like it looks nice. I think that you can blend this out to build it up as you choose. And I personally don't find it to be too warm, but I do have a little bit more of a golden undertone. Let me show you some swatch comparisons of this with some other bronzers so you can get a little bit more of like a baseline. So right here in these swatches, I have the new coral bronze, which I'm demoing right now at the top. Then I have the old coral bronze from last year. This is what it looks like. I'm sure a lot of you guys remember this release. Then we have 02 Light from the regular line of Dior bronzers. Then we have 02 Soft in the Dior bronzers. Then there is RMS Beach Walk Betty. And finally, I've included the Gucci bronzer in the shade 01 Fair. All of the bronzers from Dior are definitely in the warm category. They really don't make neutral or pinky tone bronzers like the RMS and the Gucci or the Tom Ford Terra. So if that's what you like, just stick with that. They tend to do bronzers that really warm up the face. The newer coral bronze is definitely more pigmented, as you saw from the swatches. It's a little bit deeper, but I also think it's more blendable, so you can sheer it out, and more buildable. I do think that this is gonna sort of stretch across more skin tones. I think it works on my skin tone, but if you really hate warm tone bronzers, then I would probably say this is a skip. Or you could use it as like a neutral blush because it does have a little bit of like that pinky and coral tone to it. I don't think this is a bad product, but I would say my complaints with this are, number one, I do wish that they made this like more segmented. If you're going to include a blush shade, maybe make half of it a blush, half of it a bronzer, so you could kind of pick and choose, or maybe make the pan like jumbo or oversized like they've done with the jumbo version of the bronzers. This doesn't make that much sense to me. It doesn't offer enough differentiation from what they have in the regular line, so that is one complaint that I have about this. The other one is I just don't really understand why they would have a coral one and a pink one when it actually is swatched and when it goes on your face, it literally looks exactly the same. Why not have two different depths, right? Like, why have two different colors when you could have like a lighter bronzer for lighter and fairer skin tones and then a deeper one for like medium to deep skin tones? To me, that would make a lot more sense, but hey, I don't work for Dior. The third thing that annoys me about this is that the embossing is gone so quickly. That gold design that you see in the beautiful fresh compact, that is an overspray, and just like the eyeshadows, it disappears the first time that you use it. Furthermore, the actual embossing, it really isn't that deep. It's already gone, and that little tiger is not gonna be lasting there for much longer. So that's a little bit annoying, but at least the packaging is a lot cuter and more special than the eyeshadow palettes. Next up, we have the Dior Forever Glow Luminizer in the shade Coral Glow. This is also limited edition, just like all the products in this collection. And if you've never tried this line of highlighters before, they're some of my favorites. I have a lot of shades to show you comparisons in just a second. But this one right here, Coral Glow, it is gonna be a little bit more vibrant than some of the other ones that you may have tried or seen from Dior before. For someone fair like me, this is gonna add a little bit of color to the cheeks in addition to luminosity. When I first opened up this product, it does look like it's going to be kind of glittery. It's pretty sparkly. But when I applied it to the cheeks, it looks just as smooth and ethereal as all the other luminizers that I've tried from Dior. It's a really beautiful formula, blends out really nicely, but as you could see right there in the demo, it does add a little bit of, just a little bit of like punchiness and vibrancy to my cheeks. I think this looks beautiful over both of the, blushes, the little pops of color in the eyeshadows that I used as blush. It looks so good over both of those shades. It's like the perfect tone to add a little bit of extra something something. But I was wondering, is this the same shade, the same one that they just discontinued from the main line? This one is also called Coral Glow. I've talked about this one in the past. This was one of my favorite ones, and they discontinued it. So rude, Dior. So I was wondering, are they being super lazy and just re-releasing this as like a limited edition color for this Dioriviera collection? But actually they are different. You can even kind of tell right here from the pan that the newer one is a little bit like brighter and more vibrant. The new one is more vibrant, it has a little bit more sparkle, more impact. I feel like the formula, even though it's been reformulated, I feel like the formula is basically the same, but the color and the shift are different. So I feel like they're different enough that you can have both. But back to the swatch comparisons right there, I have a couple of the other luminizers that have been recently released for you to take a look at. This new color is different from the pink strobe. I mean, you can easily tell as I hold them up right here that pink strobe is more of like a true pink with a gold shift. This is also pretty different from some of the other limited edition ones that Dior has launched in the past. There's like the pink Riviera and the gold Riviera. I picked out a couple in those swatch comparisons for you to see right there. If I were to try and dupe this, I would say the most similar thing that I own is the RMS blush in the shade Mai Tai. The shade is almost exactly the same, but you can see from the swatch comparison here that the RMS really is more of a glowy blush, whereas the Dior is a luminizer. Like the formula isn't exactly the same. I also included a swatch of the Hermes Rose Allée blush that recently came out. That is definitely not as vibrant. It is, at least to me, pretty different. Overall, I like this. I think it's nice that they did something a little bit more vibrant for summer. I like the packaging. And once again, I just want to reiterate this. The embossing does not last. It really doesn't, guys. Like you can see right there. It's already pretty much completely worn off the top, and it's not like I've used this a million times. I've used it a couple times to film all the demos and test out this product before reviewing. And then I also picked up the 2 limited edition nail polishes. I just couldn't help myself this time around. I love these beautiful summery colors. The first one right here is called Coral Pop, and this is described as a glittery coral pink featuring a pearlescent gold undertone. And I would agree with that. It does have a beautiful gold glittery shift, and I really like the tone of this coral. The other one is called Sienna, and this is described as a mahogany shade featuring tone-on-tone pearlescent pigments with a dark purple shimmer. I can't say that this has a purple shimmer. It's subtle. It's a beautiful warm brown. I actually did paint my nails with this one, you guys. You'll have to comment down below and let me know what you think. This is one of the first kind of like cool shades that I've ever tried that actually looks natural and good on my skin tone. You know when there's trendy colors like, ooh, navy blue or olive green, or I don't know, like something close to black or whatever, and it sounds like a good idea, and then you paint your nails and you're like, what was I thinking? Like, this doesn't look good on my skin tone. This actually, I feel like for once, looks good on my fingernails. I'm kind of obsessed with it. Now take what I'm about to say with a little grain of salt, because I do tend to really like summer collections. I just like those colors, those undertones. I think that this is one of the best collections that Dior Beauty has launched in a while. One of the few where I actually like everything that they launched. I feel like everything here I would totally use all summer long. If I were to narrow it down, the two standouts to me are the pink Riviera eyeshadow palette. I love, love, love this. I'm really excited about the color story, and the sienna nail polish. I do think it's funny that the product that sold out immediately is the bronzing powder, because to me, this is the most underwhelming product in the whole lineup. Like, if you already have a bronzer that you enjoy, I don't really think you need this. I really do think it is because of the embossing and because they put this like little strip of blush powder, and I mean, come on, the packaging also helps. It's a very beautiful presentation, but to me, the actual product, you know, once you start using it and everything fades away, isn't all that groundbreaking or different from like what you probably already have in your collection. At the end of the day, the embossings and the oversprays, it's kind of a scam. Let's face it, it is kind of a scam. It's an incredibly affordable way for the brand to launch the same thing that they always launch. Obviously, these are new color stories, to charge you more and make you think that it is something wildly special, because it's so, so beautiful. It's so alluring. Like, when I saw the promo photos for this, I was like, whoa, that looks cute. That is stunning. I must collect this. But after I've used this once or twice, it's like, oh, okay. The veil is lifted, that little tiger is gone, and I am left with a Dior eyeshadow palette. Like all the other ones that I have in my collection over there, I am seeing a lot of people like swoon over this collection, and that's great. I'm very happy that people are excited for it, because I'm excited about it as well. But I do think that a big part of that is just the embossing and the design of the products and the overall presentation. It's gonna be very hard to preserve the embossing and the overspray for any of these products. I mean, it's pretty much gone from all of the ones that I demoed for you today. So just make sure that you really, really like these colors. If you're actually using the things that you buy, you're probably going to, you know, wear away the embossing and the overspray pretty quickly. I really do wish, especially for the price, that with these seasonal collections, Dior could give us like something better in terms of the packaging. Like, this is the same packaging that they do all the time. It really isn't anything special. At least for the Plan de Paris collection last year, they released these really cute pouches. I feel like they could have done the same thing with this print that they put all over the embossing. Like, they could have launched pouches for the eyeshadows that looked just like this. Again, like, I would be okay paying a couple extra dollars if it came with the pouch. Then we see other brands like Guerlain doing things like this, like totally bedazzling the compact. Why can't Dior do this? I don't know, guys. It feels a little bit lazy. It feels a little bit greedy. It feels a little bit like scammy to me. So I do really like this collection. I enjoyed all the products. I really like the colors. But at the end of the day, I am a little bit annoyed with the whole like fancy embossing. I continue to think that this is just a really lazy way for brands to convince us to buy something and making us think that it's like super special and worth it. Leave me a comment down below, because I would love to hear all of your thoughts about this collection. And if you like this video, please don't forget to give me a big thumbs up and subscribe, or better yet, go watch another video. Up next, I have the 5 best and 5 worst of Dior Beauty. I'll see you there.